I can't unite people on Twitch by being right-wing. On the left, it's a lifelong struggle, but the right isn't like that. We value freedom and creating wealth. These are simple values, but not an everyday struggle.
Hello, Sardoche.
Hi, Vincent. How are you? Well, I'm great. It's a pleasure to see you.
The weather is nice. We're at the Pantheon. We wanted to visit Luxembourg Gardens, but we're told no. We weren't allowed to go to the Luxembourg Gardens. Filming there is forbidden. I knew that.
Yeah, well, we still tried anyway, but...
We tried?
We came to the neighborhood where I studied. I was in preparatory classes here. It's nice to see it again after so long.
What kind of preparatory classes were you in?
I went to St. Louis. It was a math-focused preparatory program. And while it was a great neighborhood, I was really happy to be there, okay? That was the only Parisian period of my life because I was in Department 95 and then in Department 91, so I just got on with my studies.
Who are you, Sardoche, for those unfamiliar with you?
I'm a video game streamer, nothing more classic than that. I have a career, well, I'm kind of known for my rage moments and all that. Tryharding. And recently my somewhat controversial political opinions.
So you're a video game player who streams on Twitch, that's right, and you have over 1 million followers, correct?
Yeah, 1 million, yeah, 200,000, yeah. Well, it goes down every day because there are people, yeah, that's fine, but it still stays above 1 million, so yes, I have 1 million followers, yeah.
All right, and you're known because basically you've taken rather right-wing positions.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Honestly, even...
Honestly, right-wing?
Honestly, yes, pretty clearly center-right. Actually, I think I've formed some opinions, yeah. I think I'm hated just because I gave my opinion and I wasn't some mindless drone who just repeats everything people say to please others and avoid being harassed.
In an environment that's still known for being left-wing?
Yeah, no, but yes. Yeah, but is it really left-wing or is it just pretending to be left-wing? That's the question.
Well, you can tell us that. You're the one who knows them.
Well, I think he ends up believing it after a while, so let's give them the benefit of the doubt anyway. All right.
So what are these opinions that, for example, got you removed from Zealand? That's a well-known streamer event, right?
I don't think it's really my opinions that make me an outcast. It's the atmosphere my opinions create. It's going to be because, well, there's still something that's pretty obvious. It's that despite everything people say, there's still a big difference between the harassment you get when you have far-right takes and the harassment you get when you have far-left takes, you know? Yeah. I think that on the left, they're more activist, they're more organized. That's a fact. They're less into a plurality of opinions. And so they're very easily able to unite as a bloc to destroy someone if necessary. Yeah. And so obviously on the other hand, if you're on the left, you're gonna make the guys on the right laugh a bit. They'll be sarcastic about you. They'll make fun of you quickly, but it won't even cross their minds to contact your company to get you fired or anything like that. Of course. So obviously when you realize that, you think, what do I do? Here I have the choice between being on the right or being on the left. I have no political opinion because I really don't care. But I'll still have to take a position when people in my chat ask me what I think about the presidential debate. Well, people very easily choose the left-wing option that makes them feel safe.
It's the easy option.
Yeah, but if you're honest and you have a bit of conviction and you're a man of your word, well, yeah, it's weird to give an opinion that's not yours or even to pretend just to please people. At worst, you just say, well, guys, I don't know. The problem is that now we're getting into a situation that kind of excites me. It's like, imagine, we have a second round between Mélenchon and Bardella. You think what's going to be really funny is that either you call to vote against Bardella, or you tell people not to vote for either of them. But that means you're voting for Bardella, you see? Yeah, of course. So actually, there's going to be this really funny thing like, yeah, so you didn't call to vote for Mélenchon, so you're far right. So actually, everyone is going to have to take a position. Yeah, if they don't, it'll imply they're far right since there's a witch hunt. Yeah. And this game is a bit sad because we are involving the convictions of people who don't have time to care about politics. Those who take the time to do it are immediately sidelined, you see. I took the time to do it. I've always had political intuitions. Very liberal during the Yellow Vests movement. When I spoke about pensions, everyone insulted me. I don't know, I'm just here thinking, well, your system is a bit strange, honestly.
I'm like that, by the way, for you too.
Yeah, that's really it.
The issue of pensions and...
protests. But, you know, I have no political ambition at that time. I'm a loser. I don't know anything. Yeah. Like, I'm just like, guys, don't you think it's weird that they don't let you choose what you do with your money? But, you know, just a thought. I never studied economics in my life. I did microeconomics and macroeconomics at school in Angers. It's just numbers, you know? There's no political logic. I'm just wondering, is it normal that we don't have private ownership over our own money? And is it normal that we're forced to do what we're told with our money and that there's not necessarily any return on what we do with it? Like, public spending is in a disastrous state, and we just have to be like, okay, I'll keep paying in every month. It's weird. So I asked myself this question. Of course, it's the yellow vests. It's kind of a revolutionary movement. And then, I don't know how many thousands of insulting messages there were. It was hell. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, it was crazy. But you know, I actually missed that time. I was insulted for what I said, and I'm okay with it. Today, more and more we get insulted for who we hung out with 15 years ago, who we retweeted at some point in 2004. You see?
Now you're going to get insulted because you're making this video with me. And by the way, that's very brave of you.
Well, actually, I'm convinced that you're a moderate person. That you don't go down the path of radicalization. And that you had 1,000 opportunities to do it. And so now if people write guilt by association pieces about you and say, yeah, this guy, he did that. It's ridiculous, you see. At some point, you can't complain about someone if you don't look at what they're doing. And honestly, if he just took the time to watch the videos, he'd understand that you give everyone a voice. That it's actually pretty funny. Of course, in your editorial line, there's a selection bias in the topics. Yeah, yes, obviously.
I pick topics that matter to me and the French people, which is why the national rally is at 40%.
More than 40%. And it's true that in that, there's a bit less pluralism than what you might expect. But anyway, you need a bit of everything. But on the other hand, in the way you handle topics, I think no one can really blame you for being biased. In fact, you often play the devil's advocate with the people you interview and take on different roles to let people speak their minds. And I think that's cool.
And I think it's important for people to be able to express their thoughts, just like I'm doing with you.
Yeah, I missed that.
You'll let me know after the interview if I skewed the interview one way or the other. What would you like to discuss?
What would I like to talk about? Honestly, what's going to happen in France in the next 10 years? Are we really... First of all, what is it like in France? How are things in France? Because you see, you're painting a picture that's a bit pessimistic, but it's important to show what's not working. But at the same time, you make videos walking around like, hey guys, there's nothing wrong, everything's great, life is beautiful. Well, yeah, but I still think we're in a beautiful country. There are still plenty of things that are going well. I mean, we're not yet in that fatalistic mindset of it's over, everything's ruined, and I think we can still turn things around and save what we can, you know? There are too many valuable things in France for us to give up.
I agree with you, of course.
So I'm kind of in a place where, you know, I recently became politically aware and started asking myself, what am I doing with my life? You know, I keep streaming video games over and over. I accomplish things in video games, but it doesn't have any real value for humanity.
It helps you make a living.
Yeah, well, until I lose my sponsors because they get 50 emails every 2 days trying to cancel me. But yeah, I still make a living from donations. And actually, I'm aware that in 2027, 2032, there are going to be some important things happening. And I'm not going to get into cliches, I don't know, because maybe a lot of people on the channel might want to vote for Bardella. You see, and you know we could have a debate about that because that's what's funny. For a month, I kind of criticized Bardella's socialist economic stance.
It's not truly socialist, and there have been changes this past year.
Yeah, that's what I see. Well, exactly, because they're starting to realize that within their voters, some are maybe fed up with immigration, that's for sure. But maybe some are also tired of socialism, you know, and maybe it's connected, maybe one attracts the other or vice versa, or maybe it's a virtuous circle, you know. So yeah, actually for a month I was criticizing the national rally, and now recently I got cancelled. And people tell me, you're a far-right supporter of Bardella. You see, like we said, people put you in a box. They don't care about what you do, they don't care about what you say, and they categorize you even if it's the complete opposite of your ideas. It's crazy.
I
didn't hide it because it makes me laugh. It's lies not I like him, but it's just because I think we need to bring a liberal touch to the political debate. Now, is he really the president that France needs? Is he the political figure? You see, the whole French layer cake bureaucracy thing, I don't think it's coherent, but I mean that all the parties understand that normally people are fed up with statism, that people are tired of constant interventionism. Also, I don't know, you attended an economics school?
Yeah, a PhD in economics, yeah.
So was rent control a topic for you? No. Not really? No. Like, didn't you ever debate what happens when you set a price?
Never. Also, yes, setting the price, but you see it from an economic theory perspective.
So the scarcity that it implies?
You see what I mean? You know, supply and demand, you have curves that intersect, and in the middle you have the equilibrium price. That's the idea, you know, the basic idea.
Yeah. So it's still crazy that now there are people campaigning saying they're going to cap rents, and people are applauding right away. It's crazy because it has never worked. And like people, okay, we're not asking everyone to have a PhD in economics, but it's still mind-blowing that we're not a bit more educated about how an economy works, you know? You see? Yeah, of course. Because I don't know anything about economics. I didn't study economics, but I read Soul, you know. And well, it's still brought up pretty quickly that there are a ton of examples showing that it's crap and that, well, of course, it's more complicated than that. It's wild that we only have one option in France, right?
There's a paradox in what you're saying because while the French are concerned about purchasing power, immigration is also an issue. And immigration, what people blame the state for is precisely not intervening enough, not doing its job, you see? In liberal theory, there are three pillars: free movement of goods, capital, and people. And it's in the name of this free movement of people that the borders are porous.
That's why I believe state authority must stay strong on some issues. In France, historically, healthcare is one of those issues, and it's basically something that works well. But unfortunately, less and less so in France, though still better than in some countries, we have to admit. I think we're still 12th or 13th, I believe, so it's not as much of a disaster as some people say.
In terms of government intervention, right?
No, in terms of the quality of public health services.
Ah, yes, okay, right.
When it comes to disastrous state intervention, I think we hold the record. Really? I know what it is.
North Korea? No kidding.
57% of GDP in public spending? Well, that's taking everything into account, but yeah, that's a lot. No, but yeah, you're right that when it comes to border security, even justice, even prisons, sovereignty, but you know, there are some kind of dystopian debates about how to privatize justice. It's interesting. But that's another topic. But anyway, when it comes to borders and even the country's sovereignty, you see on the international level, obviously you need a strong state. It makes sense. But yeah, immigration is more and more becoming the core issue and it's dividing people. And I don't really know what the strategy is behind all this, honestly.
Yeah, let's move a bit. But look, I wanted to talk to you about this because we're talking about economics, but also about history. And he has some major gaps in history.
Yeah, but I'm terrible, you know. When you discuss history on your channel, it's great since there's always something to catch up on.
Look, that's the Pantheon. We're standing in front of it.
Isn't that where Foucault's pendulum is?
I know there's a statue with the whole National Convention there in the center. It's magnificent. You've got Robespierre.
Danton?
Oh, yeah? You have Rousseau facing Voltaire, which is really interesting.
Oh yeah, that's incredible.
They hated each other, you know.
But that's also France.
Yes, that's true. It's beautiful. It's true. No, that's definitely worth visiting. It used to be a church.
Okay.
And it was during the revolution that they made it the Temple of Great Men. The first to enter the Pantheon was a revolutionary, what's his name? Damn, I can't remember, to the left of Robespierre.
I was going to say Robespierre, but...
Who was asking for 500 heads a day? Wait, let me check, because honestly, this is embarrassing. Oh no, it's not. It's Mirabeau, right? It's Mirabeau. There was a French revolutionary who was admitted to the Pantheon. He was very radical, even further to the left than Robespierre. And they brought him out again after the revolution, Marat.
Do you know Marat? No, I don't. It's a disaster.
You don't know Marat? No. Oh yeah, damn.
I've got some gaps in my knowledge.
The French Revolution is truly a fascinating period.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, that's for sure. But above all, I think there are things to learn from it for
what is happening to us today?
For today, clearly, of course. But is the way the French Revolution is depicted in history books very faithful to what actually happened?
When you dig deeper, since I've read a lot, I was fascinated by Robespierre for a long time in my youth. And when you read the biographies, from one biography to another, you discover that it's actually much more nuanced than what we learn at school, obviously. At school, it's just 3 paragraphs.
But that's what I tell myself, actually.
Personalities, stories, and interactions are all complex, just like us in real life, you see. Most importantly, there are shades of grey.
Sometimes we think it's complex when it's actually just stupid stuff.
In the end, it really comes down to simple things.
It could even be a woman, maybe jealousy.
Money, women, yeah, no, it's true.
But that's what's funny, and often we name these kinds of things and pass them off as big philosophical theories, when in the end they're just everyday quarrels, you know? I think it's possible, but anyway.
So do you like France?
Well, of course. But I love France for everything it represents. But you see, like the authors, well, unfortunately, I don't know all the revolutionaries, that's true. But it's just the beauty, you know? You love beauty, and I find French landscapes magnificent. I also enjoy French bitterness, maybe because I come from League of Legends, where toxicity is common. So actually, the fact that people are a bit bitter, but deep down, if you dig, you discover they're sensitive people. I think that's beautiful, you know? We also have this revolutionary spirit. It makes us constantly question everything. Sometimes for the worse, but often for the better, you know? You know, there's something in the DNA of the French people that's incredible.
Genius, creativity.
Yeah, and of course, art.
Even just that pantheon over there?
Well, as for me, when it comes to musicians, I'm a bit more knowledgeable, yeah. But you know, like Debussy, Ravel, more recently Lily Boulanger, you see. There are some incredible names. Oh yeah? Yeah, I think so. No, but yeah, it's cool, like we really have an amazing heritage and it's a shame, you know, to forget all that. And often it's a shame too to use these symbols to destroy France.
Why? What do you mean?
No, but I mean, they'll tell you. You see, I'm getting into a whole topic here. You see, they'll tell you, yes, those people back then would have been Nazis. We are the resistance fighters, the Jean Moulins of our society. Whereas Jean Moulin would have pissed on all those people. With his eyes closed for sure, like that's certain. Like there's no world where we would have agreed to sacrifice so much of who we are, you know? And it's incredible actually that, yeah, we're coming back to that. Because it's true that this is unfortunately the heart of the matter. I think that immigration should be a consequence of a policy rather than the driving force of a policy, you know? It's odd that we base everything on whether we allow people into our country, knowing that it should be. You see, often they'll argue that. You see, the left will tell you we need immigration. From a demographic point of view, from an economic point of view. Well, in fact, it's been proven time and time again that it's not really the case anymore. But what if we didn't fix this demographic problem? What if we didn't fix this economic problem? Would we need immigration? No, see?
I think the question is more of a moral one.
Yes, but then it's a humanist one.
The stance is moral. People call us the bad guys because we're essentially shutting out poor people.
Yes, but that would be the case if immigration was mostly from countries at war. Which is not the case at all.
No, overall, I genuinely think leftists were sincere during the pandemic.
Oh, but that's for sure.
And they say to themselves, these are poor people. We didn't do anything to deserve it, and we were born in a rich country. We have to share, like you share your plate with a beggar. Because that's what the pandemic is.
You know what's funny is that these are really Christian values.
Yes, it's basically Christianity 2.0.
These are Christian values, of course. Well, it's like usual, you know. Do we neglect our own people? What are we doing for the French homeless person, the truly French guy dying in the street, you see? Is it really consistent? And then, no, but in general, the immigration debate just attracts, it divides people for no reason, because I think anyone would agree that, well, what bothers people is just the control of immigration. It's just that we're already people on the territory that we don't know, that we don't have their fingerprints, that they can move around freely. Well, some might say that's treating them like cattle, but no. When you were born, you got an ID card, they took your fingerprints, we know where you are, and if one day you do something wrong, we can find you, and that's a good thing. Fortunately, we don't just move around freely like that, so of course anyone who enters the territory must undergo,
He gets checked, of course, when we go to Australia or elsewhere.
Well, obviously, yeah, it makes sense after all. And it's crazy that it's become a taboo. And I think we need to just let it die down a bit. Let the whole thing deflate a little, right? But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I
think it's just going to build up and eventually explode, you know, it's going to end up exploding. We're heading more in that direction. By the way, speaking of directions, let's head towards Rue Mouffetard if you don't mind. Perfect. Which is behind the Pantheon, you know that, of course.
I used to walk around, I would go eat around there, so yeah, Rue Mouffetard, of course.
Beautiful street, by the way. I don't know what it's like now, I haven't been there in years.
Same here, because I was in Prepa in 2013, 2012.
I expect there have been some renovations because that's the usual thing, so we'll see what it looks like, but I'm really happy to talk with you, you know, to walk around with you.
But I watch all the videos because I'm a bit like that. I'm still critical. Like I was telling you, we see the worst. It doesn't hide the best. And people who watch this channel need to understand that, actually. You shouldn't just feed on that. Yes, of course, obviously. Actually, if you look at that next to the art France has to offer, all the beauty of the country, the culinary aspect, everything beautiful in France, well, it's just a warning. It could go downhill. It's already gone downhill a bit in some cities, so be careful. Yeah, and don't forget that our happiness is based on fragile things.
Actually, we should be able to look at the problem very pragmatically with statistics, because more and more French people are complaining about crime and violence. Also that stabbings are increasing, all of that. What are the numbers? What's the real trend? And can we complain? That's the question.
And you experience it differently.
Well, my situation is a bit unique because since I'm a bit well known, I draw a lot of hostility, you know? Yeah, exactly. I attract attention.
You get the worst of the worst.
So my opinion is obviously biased, but the stories I hear, well, maybe that's also biased since people come to me to complain. There are a lot of them, possibly, you know. But when you look at the numbers from Marc Van Gouar, for example, it's clear the situation in France is getting worse in terms of security and immigration.
But it's not just immigration, it's more general. The money we give to the police, the money we give to healthcare, it's just a budgeting problem. It's just that we don't know how to manage money. I think the problem is purely functional. Oh, you think so? Well, yes, I think that obviously there are aggravating factors, but I think those aggravating factors would be nothing without a catalyst, which is state incompetence, you see. And that's why my fight today is kind of to say, okay guys, can we just calm down for a couple of minutes? Actually, I'll give you my whole take, honestly, because right now go ahead, we're in it, we're really in it right now. You see, I think in France we have a changing demographic, and it's certain that with immigration, with births, with how many children people have, etc., there will be a bit more, but not as much as people think, definitely not 40%. There will be a bit more in 5 or 10 years, Muslims in France, Muslims who haven't necessarily grown up with radicalization, they believe in the Quran literally, that's it. There are a lot of them who are believers because it's a part of spirituality. We all need a bit of connection, you see, with our soul. And often prayer is just a pretext, whether it's religion or not. It's just a moment for yourself, a time to be alone and reconnect with yourself, you see? And these people, they're going to have to vote, and you can't ostracize them and base your entire political discourse on, hello, actually the problem is Muslims, it's Islam, okay? So, we're going to reach a point. Maybe I'm making a shaky theory here, but whoa, maybe Bardella doesn't have a glass ceiling that would stop him from winning the elections, even though I think he can only win against Mélenchon. He'll lose against all the other candidates. In my view, Bardella can't beat Edouard Philippe. I honestly think so, yes.
The polls are 50-50.
Yeah, it's 50-50 now. Yeah, but with the public debates, steamroller. Of course, the media steamroller, well, even if people are starting to be a bit more critical on Twitter, but how is it in real life, you know? Yeah, that's true. People are going to say, oh no, the extreme thing, all the people on the left who are going to vote for Edouard Philippe if it's Edouard Philippe. That's why I believe the glass ceiling exists only because immigration is central to your debate. But maybe Edouard Philippe will change his program tomorrow and it will say that he'll do the same thing as Bardella on immigration, but people just won't read the programs, they don't care. It's just the political label, a candidate's political affiliation that interests them.
Avoiding immigration talk creates a glass ceiling.
I think it should be in your program, but it shouldn't be your main topic, because you absolutely have to ensure the safety of your people and their happiness. That should be your main goal. But if you indirectly ostracize people because, you know, it's silly, but people who are children of immigrants feel concerned when you say you don't want any more immigrants, you see. It's lame, but it's a shortcut that happens automatically, even though maybe it only concerns certain illegal Afghans in the country. We're not going to start deporting people from France right away, even if Bardella takes power tomorrow. The deportation order enforcement rate is low, and there are still checks and balances. It won't happen instantly. Not all fourth-generation immigrants will leave the country. If you repeat something moderate 40,000 times, it becomes extreme. So I think it's not necessary to talk about it all the time. We should talk about the country's structural problems. We have to talk about it at some point. There has to be a debate about immigration, but making it the main issue.
Bardella, well, National Rally's strategy over the past 10 years has been precisely to normalize itself, to address other topics like purchasing power.
I actually watched his last rally. No, I watched the rally before the municipal elections. And unfortunately, it's still pretty, this is just my opinion, but it's still a bit empty, you know. You see, it deals a lot with that thing, but it's good. It's something we want to hear. France for the French, you know, France for the French only on paper, you see. We just want to be heard, we want to be deserving. We want to give more resources to immigrants who make an effort and less to those who don't. You know, it's logical things, but still, it keeps going around in circles about that. That's what I want to hear, but it also creates a glass ceiling. And I think that this glass ceiling today, maybe it's at the level of, you know, you tell me out of 50, maybe he still has a chance to get through. But you can imagine that demographically, with all the children who were born 15 years ago, they will turn 18 in 2029, 2030, 2032. There will be more. This glass ceiling will lessen, but I don't understand.
Do you think it's going to go back down after that?
The percentage of people with immigrant backgrounds will rise, even if it's not a huge number. It will add a few percentage points. And actually, this debate, this position, this identity stance, I think it's doomed to complete failure. And actually, if you start, well, that's my opinion, you know, but if you start on the right, always defining yourself by this identity label, well, this glass ceiling is going to hurt all your ideas. And if that's the case, you're representing the right and making it lose. See?
At the same time, you see.
You're fueling socialism and the statist left, which will only make things worse.
And at the same time, it's a topic, but it's complex, you know, it's central. How do you manage not to address this issue of France's identity when you actually feel like you're losing that identity? You know, you feel like you're losing something deep inside you, something that's disappearing, and on top of that, you're not even supposed to talk about it because you don't want to scare the grandma who could vote for Edouard Philippe. It's actually very complicated.
But the thing is, like, actually, when you go on social media, something happened. There's been a change. But when you walk around in the street, I still think that, you know, you go to some places too, but you know, like not long ago I was in Montmartre. Barbès is right next to it, you know. Yeah, well, Barbès is Barbès, yeah. And Montmartre is Montmartre. And like Montmartre is still Montmartre. It's Paris, it's France, you know.
Yeah.
And there are always, I know that I get hated by the identitarians because I have this stance. Maybe I also take this stance for safety because these aren't the battles I want to fight. But I am deeply convinced that algorithmic bubbles give you too much of an impression that things are in an irreversible state, you see. Oh, really? When all it takes is one term, I think?
You're optimistic, I think so. That's good.
No, but that...
It's nice that you're optimistic. We need that, you know. I'm less optimistic, I admit I'm less optimistic.
No, but I understand, but that's also why...
But I think you're right to be optimistic, actually.
But, you know, we don't have a choice. Yeah, no, you're right. Actually, if we're not optimistic and we're already defeatist, that's also like a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know? Yeah. If you don't believe in it, but you see, it wouldn't even cross my mind, you know, we're talking about immigration and all. It wouldn't cross my mind to vote for a candidate who doesn't have a clear and firm policy of we're going to reduce, we're really going to keep a close watch, we're going to control. But it shouldn't be scary because I think that, so we were talking about it with Majid Okacha. Majid Okacha, yeah. But actually, yeah, I find him very relevant on a lot of topics. Very brilliant, yeah. And one topic on which he is extremely relevant is saying that it's immigrants, first and foremost, who should vote for increased security in France, precisely so they won't be lumped together anymore, obviously. There are a few tiny percentages of people who cause trouble in France. There are, yeah, but not all, but many don't. No, but actually, let me tell you something. You see, we were talking about streamers who are apolitical or who take easy positions. Yeah. But when you talk with, but even you've had some in your videos, I remember. When you talk with guys who come from immigrant backgrounds, they'll tell you, oh, I'm not really interested in politics, but so I'll probably vote for Mélenchon. They've been taught that's their vote, or at least that the left was their side. It was the immigrants' vote, so you see, it's not even a stance. You see, they just watch the news. They see that the right is like, oh no, immigration. And they see that the left is like, oh yes, we're happy about immigration. Well, you see, the guy has no political opinion. But if tomorrow he started a business, started paying taxes, started trying to hire people, he would see the structural difficulties of running a company. Because it costs you to pay someone minimum wage. You know, like 3,600, the guy would be like, well, yeah, maybe I should start paying a bit more attention to the program. He might realize he benefits more by voting for the right, and honestly, he wouldn't care about anti-immigration policies. All the immigrants who really work, it's their life, it's their job, well, they don't care at all about whether the stance is pro-immigration or not, because they know it doesn't concern them, you know. So that's why for these people who are apolitical, who we imagine to be activists, there's also this myth, the beast, like the mass of pro-immigration people who are there, voting for there to be even more, but not even. There are people who go about their lives, they vote, you know, and they're just like, you know. And actually, it's not possible to confront them with a position that's even a little bit opposed to theirs, and it ostracizes them, you know. So I think we need a right-wing movement that stands by its convictions about regulating migration, but doesn't make it its main focus, you know. And that's missing in France. Not to mention what I was saying about liberalism, which is also a bit lacking. Lightening the state a bit is not much.
Lighten it a bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. Is this a joke or what? Are we going there? Careful. Is it okay there? There's a guy there, did you see?
Well, yeah.
But send a message.
Yeah, but we don't care. But no, the guy saw and recognized us. He could message his friend like, I saw that guy. Yeah, but you're something else. Yeah.
You're the one who's something else. No, it's you, it's you. Look, there's Sardoche the fascist with a guy I don't know.
That's kind of the news. No, but there's no point in being smooth.
That's very suspicious.
Yeah, I understand. But you actually, the thing was, it was suspicious. What do you expect him to do on such a busy street?
No, you know, the anti-fascists don't care at all.
Well, still. Yeah, it does put you in a tough spot, though. If you're not in a corner where nobody can see you, they're not going to give you any...
Even the verbal altercation, yeah, fascist, I didn't, you know, in front of everyone and all, it's actually aggression.
Personally, I think, well, I know it doesn't lead anywhere because the debate just turns into a mess every time. But it's so funny to talk to them.
But I try, but they don't want to.
But no, actually, you have to go a little further. Maybe I'm being overconfident, but if it happens, chill. I think so.
I think that's it. Yeah, well, okay. Okay.
No, but here it's still Paris. It's a bit much, but it's very beautiful.
But I love it. But, hello?
That's not...
Once bitten, twice shy.
It's not,
This is Rue Mouffetard. We're right in the middle of it now.
But all that, unfortunately, it kind of hurts my channel. It's because, you see, I make gaming content. Yeah. And actually, there's a problem in my life today. The problem is that video games are kind of a safe space, you know? People come to relax, of course, to forget their problems.
To escape from reality.
No, but escaping from reality. But you know, sometimes it's also a way of, they come to see me think with me, but at least you see, it's like when I start playing chess. Yeah. I switch my brain off, and it's cool, and yet I still think, but well, they don't want to get back into political debate problems, not at all.
Sure, but the future of our country is at stake.
But that's it.
But I still have to talk about it, you know?
Yeah, that's it. But I can't not talk about it either. But it's counterproductive because I lose a bit in... Not compartmentalizing also makes me lose ground, you know?
Yeah, I understand, but I'm sorry if this video...
Oh, not at all, because I'm not on my channel. You do more harm than good.
Yeah, but we're going to shove this video in your face, you know?
But actually, that's what it is. I talked about it with a journalist one day. Well, I won't name them, but basically they told me it's a shame to do that. Well, it's even worse. And actually, I think it's a shame to put yourself... Yeah, actually, that's what I was saying earlier. You're dealing with topics that are normal, that are a subject of discussion. Now that it's your main focus, people might criticize you, your editorial line, like I was saying, but... Yeah, very sincere. Very sensitive.
I think I try. Well, yes, but by the way, I'm one of the few people who actually go interview them, for example. So I talked in Brest with an Afghan pizza delivery guy that nobody cares about. Yeah, I'm going to talk to him.
But no, it's just that, well, that's the drama of... I found it shameful, but that thing with Zygain, what a nightmare. Like, it really shocked me. I sent a DM to the girl. Oh, yeah? Yeah, I sent her a DM. You know, she said everyone insulted her. Yeah. I wrote her a really kind message. I told her, Mom, you're hurting the cause. I explained what her name is.
I don't remember, but yes, Margot made the court.
Yeah, I explained to her. I told her, do you realize...
By the way, I want to give her a shout out because I have nothing against her.
I told her, don't you realize you're not fighting the right battle? That's someone who would actually be on your side, who could actually be made aware of a reality. The goal isn't to make fun of them. You see, I understand. Actually, it's proof once again. They don't bother to see your work. Just being associated is enough to discredit all your efforts.
Yeah, well, I think it's mostly just a stance. Deep down, you see, even in the video, you can see that at one point she hesitates. She sees that I'm not exactly a...
She's telling herself she's a revolutionary fighting her battle?
She's taking a stance. She might even need to be in that stance for her political positioning in the context of the municipal elections. And there you go, she's sticking to her line, no matter the reality, you see, in a way. She's using and stepping on me just to say she's a revolutionary.
Yeah, how did you experience it?
Do you feel... Well, for me, the thing is, people say, yeah, the guy is used to it and all, but actually, you never get used to being cast aside for the wrong reasons. If someone called me far-right, a neo-Nazi, or compared me to Hitler and started yelling that, you know, that...
To label you?
The people at the table, well, it's shameful. You see, it's like, wait, man, calm down. Can't we just talk in a civilized way? Yeah, I know.
But basically, it's always the same. They're so convinced that their fight is worth it that this kind of dehumanizing act is just consequentialism. You see, it's really about telling yourself that no matter how I achieve my goals, the end justifies the means, you know? Well, it's that inside them, they have a passion, an activist pride. They're convinced they'll fight this battle their whole life. And honestly, okay, but it's true that it's a shame to forget about humanity, you know? But actually, it's really weird because, you know, there are people, you know, there's this thing about wanting to compete over who is the most sensitive. They have this quality. They'll retweet or share TikToks, acting more virtuous and sensitive. Sometimes it's just the everyday stuff like, oh wow, I cried at that so-and-so. It's strange because those people clearly have empathy, maybe even too much, and that might consume them daily. And these are people who are definitely able to recognize it. When someone has empathy, it's undeniable. You see, you can tell right away. Like the way you talk, the way you act, your reactions to certain things, how sometimes you get upset, sometimes you get sad. You can feel it in your videos, you know? And these are people who, if they saw one of your videos, they'd say, okay, he's a guy who's not fighting the same battle as us, but he's a human, you know? And they don't make that effort, you know?
It touches me that you say that. No, I mean, it touches me. It's no.
But like they're people, they just don't act on it strongly enough. So actually it's a shame because sometimes they even know, you know, I'm going to talk about my thing with the Zealand. Yeah, I got banned from the Zealand. So it was an event I had been doing for 7 years.
A big event?
Yeah, my yearly video game competition took a month, which is the 12th of my year. You know, I play video games non-stop. I don't talk about politics. I spend my life theory crafting games I don't even know because, you know, it's a competition across multiple games. So there are 10 different games and you have to be good at all 10. And then you have quarterfinals with one game and a final with another. It's complicated because it demands a lot of understanding and requires you to be very versatile. On this competition, well, now because of my recent stances and all the drama that comes with it, I'm out. I got cancelled, so they put the username Sardoche on the site. When I signed up, it immediately said, you are banned. They really had a blacklist with just me on it elsewhere. And actually, what drove me crazy is that the organizers of the event, the people in charge of this, know that I'm human. They know me personally. We've done things together, attended charity events, and shared intense moments.
They really know you?
They really know me. Well, the best way they found to handle it was to make this decision and not let it affect them. Personally, it meant blocking me everywhere. That he doesn't have the chance to debate with me, at least so I could reach them personally. Or you see, so is it the same thing? It's kind of. We have a battle to wage. We know that if we get too interested in our enemies, we might find them human and we won't be able to destroy them. So we're not going to do it. You see?
It's like in war. You avoid seeing the other person's humanity so you can kill them.
You take certain methamphetamines to forget you're human. It's the same thing.
Is the process of war, but obviously to a much lesser degree.
Because they believe their struggle justifies any kind of baseness, right? It's justified, basically, sort of. I think this problem for me is almost structural and academic. You mentioned stats earlier. I wanted to revisit that. You said stats exist, but not to prove things. Well, there's Mark Van Guard, but you know, he takes stats from Germany, but actually, why don't the stats exist? Because academia itself is rotten to the core. The statisticians and paper writers often have other priorities or work in the private sector, so they're unavailable. Public sector workers who handle stats are deeply leftist and socialist.
Oh, they're afraid?
Or they're afraid. Yeah, that could be it, but afraid of what? Usually articles...
Ostracization. They understood well that you...
are going...
to university, you bring up sensitive topics, you're screwed, actually.
Yeah, but why? That's the problem. It's the CNC Talon that caused all the drama. I don't know if you talked about it on your channel.
Yes, I did. I mentioned it on X.
Well, basically, yeah, I think people have heard about it, but the CNC Talon supported some YouTubers and streamers, and they were paid with grants. And strangely, there were only openly left-wing people. It was very rare, none from the right, and some apolitical ones. But, well, you can guess they lean a bit to the left. And then, well, after some drama, it was shut down. Well, it's the kind of organization that pops up all over France, and it costs public money too, because it's our money. It keeps going on its own. It's a self-sustaining virtuous cycle. We have more and more academics who are going to circulate research papers. That's what I was saying about Piketty. You see, Piketty is an economist. I don't know if you studied him.
Yes, no, very famous. I've read Piketty.
But Piketty, who basically, well, for me, it's one of the first books I read because I had to. I wanted to see a little bit what leftists were putting forward as an economist. And well, it's very easily debunked. All his stuff about inequalities,
He made a whole big book about inequalities, by the way.
it's not based on much.
The history of inequalities, yeah.
Well, that's what I read, and unfortunately, well, when you read a bit of Soul, there's a new chapter now, a new edition. Basically, he kind of takes apart Piketty, and you realize that, well, it's still very subjective, it's economics, but still Piketty, he's in that mold to be validated by all the left-leaning academic institutions. And it's dangerous because we don't have a plurality of economic opinions in academia, you see? And again, why? Because the gatekeepers in France,
In the rest of the world, it's different. In the United States,
it's kind of the opposite. Even, it's almost like they'll only sell you liberal ideas and nothing but liberal ideas. And then, yeah.
That's why, by the way, economists, at least in the field I know in France, are a bit isolated in France. To publish in top international journals, you must use English and target influential Anglo-Saxon publications. On microeconomics, on liberal economic theories,
But here,
I
I'm maybe talking nonsense. Stiglitz, does that ring a bell for you? Yes, of course, because I'm just discovering all this. These names are new to me because it's only been a month since I got into this. He's gonna work with the mayor of New York, so it's a bit liberal, a bit, yeah, that's fine.
in the United States, the context is different, definitely. But yeah, in France, there's a real stranglehold in economics, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, I think that's maybe the heart of the matter. Maybe it's what we teach people. I have a hard time debating with people on the left for that reason. It's that they don't understand that you can have a policy that benefits both the rich and the poor. They think you go one way or the other. You either benefit the rich or you benefit the poor. It's still very...
A zero-sum game. Yeah, if you take from some, you make others win.
While actually, we can grow the pie. And in the end, what they're proposing is more about making the rich poorer, so they're as poor as the poor. But,
For sure, the rich.
and in the end, the poor don't get richer. It's always the same.
so on that point, they stumble on that. They can't get past it.
No, but there's a problem with political education. I think it's just after the temptation.
That's the idea. Anyway, it's injustice and typical of regimes. Basically, it's saying you can't escape. You will stay here, wherever you are. You will pay taxes to France your whole life, even if you don't live there. And so that's obviously every time a freedom-killing measure to justify the policy. And for that to hold up, everyone has to stay in the same place.
No, but yes, but it can't hold up anymore. It's normal. I don't know. It's, yeah.
It's temptation, yes, the temptation toward that.
Towards the regimes,
It's totalitarian. Yeah, clearly, yeah, but that's it. But it's funny because they were called fascists. When you have liberal positions, just imagine, it's really stupid. Because fascism requires a state. You need a state to have totalitarian fascism. I mean, I don't know how you do fascism without a state. A guy who wants more state power being called a fascist is strange, right?
fascism is fundamentally against individual freedoms. Yes, they want to control down to the individual, even what they think.
But yes,
But that's what fascism is, right? That's its core.
yeah, and the opposite, what would that be? It would be anarchism, yeah, anarcho-capitalism. Yeah, I'm kind of, but it's hard.
So do you have hope?
Yeah, I'm hopeful because I'm convinced, but I see things positively. Afterwards, maybe we're in a situation where what we see isn't reality, but when you look at the countries in South America, well, with what happened, you see that things can change very, very quickly. You see, I was thinking that today, like I said, I can't bring people together by being right-wing. On Twitch, I find it impossible, especially because we have far too much diversity of opinion. Compared with the left, it's much more varied. And yeah, once I tell right-wing people my opinions, they're convinced they don't need to be fueled by a constant struggle. You know, whereas the left, it's about struggle, it's the fight of a lifetime. Something happened again, we're going to fight for it. The war over there, look, let's take action, here's the fundraiser. You see, there's a strong activist side and people come to remind themselves why they're on the left. Every day, you see, it's like a little poison you take every day. You take your pill, and after a while, if you stop swallowing it, you stop believing in it. But they're still trapped in their belief. But the right, that's not it. The right, at least in the way it's caricatured, is about our desire for freedom, our desire to create wealth. We want to regain a bit of security. We want to regain a bit of identity. These are simple values, but it's not an everyday struggle. And if it becomes an everyday struggle, then we fall a bit into those very caricatures. And sometimes what you're going to do, that's also why, well, no. But we need it. It's super important. But for me, as a gamer, it's not about constantly talking about everything that's going wrong in France. To wake people up, you know, or for example, you know, psychedelics. I'll talk about current events and all the trivial details that probably don't interest anyone, but will still make them a topic. You notice the real problems? crazy things happen all the time. You go out into the field, that's important, but you see, for example, people are going to debate things like, look, Ubisoft put a black person as a samurai. All right, that's enough. They're not going to sell their game. You can tell nobody cares, you see, and I even talked about it before.
Yeah, I talked about it.
Nope.
But it's PO.
PO? Yeah, that's it. No, but so this fight, it's that thing that can keep a flame alive, a flame in people, but it's not the right flame. I don't believe it at all, and just see people in their comfort zones complaining. I'm bitter, that's my daily life, and it makes me happy. You see, it's lame. You see, it's lame, whereas, you see, that's where I prefer your channel for this kind of thing, because, you see, we're a bit touched by what's happening, by people's reality. Damn, actually, we're lucky, you know, because if you live in a neighborhood where things are going well, where there are no problems, well, actually, we're going to try to keep it that way. Yeah, that's why I have a bit of a hard time falling into that. And that's why I like it, taking part in DEs. That's it. Thank you very much for inviting me and talking about this. Because if I do it on my channel, it's things I've already said. I wear people out and make them depressed.
Is that right?
You faced an honest interview?
Well, absolutely, but you still let me talk a lot. Well, yes, but that's the point. Of course, we have the mic, we can say whatever we want, but that's why it's a shame. I don't know if they'll see it. They probably won't because it's at the end of the video. But I think the people who come and bother you and who do things like, you know, scare you by sending text messages, whereas most of the time they're just losers who won't do anything to you. They just want to act tough. I'm investigating. Maybe I'll make myself look good in front of my friends. It's just virtue signaling. It's nothing but virtue signaling. There's no real activism. And I think if you don't go after them, they won't dare. They'll try to mess with you. They'll try to annoy you. But just let them do their crap. They seem foolish, but they'd have great opportunities if they were just a bit smarter. You see, by learning 2 or 3 references, even from their own, it's Marxist. And what are bugs for 400 years? Like, they can come up to your mic and you'll give them the floor, but damn people. But come talk to Vincent Lapierre, come tell him a few home truths to his face. It's crazy, don't you see? Because I feel like I've criticized more today, even while saying good things. But what have all the people who've been hating on your channel for 70 videos done?
Since you know my work, you can have a more nuanced opinion.
Yeah, but in that case, why do you criticize someone you don't even know just because of guilt by association? Because 15 years ago, you were with a guy who tried to get your YouTube channel banned. No, please, no.
But you know the whole story, of course, the whole story.
Nope.
That's my Sardoche. Thank you very much. It was really a great pleasure to talk to you, and I hope we'll
see each other again sometime. I'm here, even if you want to do something on Twitch.
Absolutely. You invited me to your channel now. Because of that, we're going to be linked now. Clearly, hello.
Yeah.
All right, well.
Thank you, with pleasure, and thanks to those who watched this video. Even if I was a bit annoying, I'd like to share.
Interesting. It's very interesting for everyone. Thank you.
Merci.
But do you think that right now the French people watching us, the people watching this video, what can they do at their own level?
And then above all, well, that's anti-democratic. Sure, we vote for members of the European Parliament, but still, our voice is very limited compared to what's really happening now. I don't believe in the myth of extreme free market liberalism where everyone does whatever they want without state control. I just think France is too focused on socialism.